Hello from outside the MKM Stadium, where Hull City have been held to a goalless draw against Millwall. 0-0 here. That's 3 draws on the spin for Tim Walter at the start of the Championship season. City without victory, Millwall also without victory, but they had lost their first 2 games and been involved in some quite attractive games by all accounts. They lost 4-3 at Bristol City last week, lost 3-2 at home to Watford in the first game. No such excitement here this afternoon. In fairness, it was a fairly dull, uninspiring game, and funny enough, similar to what we saw last season. For all the attacking promise and talk of heart attack football and attack from Tim Walter, we haven't seen it here today. If I'm honest, it was, as I say, fairly dull, and the booze of frustration at the end of the game, whilst very early in the season. I can understand it, because for a 12:30 kickoff, it was fairly tepid. A couple of big talking points, I guess. There was one in the first half where Regan Slater had a shot that Jake Cooper, diving away to his right, saved well actually with his arms, but he's not a goalkeeper. Jake Cooper at the last count, he's a central defender. The referee waved those protests away, and that was, I guess, the big talking point at the end of the game with Tim. Look, Tim has spoken before about VAR in the Championship. He comes from Germany, where they have VAR at under 9s level in Germany, so it's not a massive surprise that he wants to see it in the Championship, but he did feel it was a penalty. Interestingly though, the 4th official, I asked him if he's spoken to anybody about it. He said the 4th official said it was because it was too close, that Regan's shot was so close to Jake Cooper that he could do nothing about it. Rubbish, absolute rubbish. Regan Slater, as I spoke to him after the game as well, and he said the referee said that it was because Jake Cooper was falling to the ground. Garbage. It's a penalty. I'm sorry. I saw it in real time. It looked a pen. I've seen replays ever since. It's just a penalty, isn't it? It is just a penalty. So Millwall got away with that. But if we're honest, I don't think City deserved that piece of luck. If I'm brutally honest. Second half, they looked better. Second half, once they brought on Will Jarvis. Will Jarvis came on down the right hand side, and unfortunately at the minute, because they haven't got the options that they want, they started with Liam Miller down the left and Abdouche down the right, and with the best intention in the world, Abdouche is not a winger, and it shows. City have no threat down the right hand side. They mark Abdouche. They make it difficult for him. Opposition make it difficult for him, and then obviously all the focus is then on Liam Miller down the left, and they can double up on him and Ryan Giles. There were moments in the first half, moments in the second, but not enough to worry. But when Jarvis came on, it was one of 3 changes just before in fact, a minute earlier than last week. Last week, I think it was 58 minutes when he made changes. This week it was 57. And Jarvis looked really bright. There was one moment he took on the fullback, knocked it round him, spun past him, got on the end of it, crossed it straight at the goalkeeper. There was another moment where he got in down the right, crossed it straight at the goalkeeper. Lack of final ball was a thing today. There was a moment in the first half, in fact, where Mason Burstow, making his debut from the off, did really well to get past the defender and clip it towards goal, but the goalkeeper Janssen made a decent save. Chris Bedia came off the bench and did okay. He came close to scoring. Beautiful overhead kick which the goalkeeper tipped over, but there were few and far. Those moments were few and far between. Shots on target were few and far between, and I think, don't quote me on this, but I think in the 3 league games we've had so far, I think they've had about 8 shots on target, which that isn't enough for three matches. And look, funny enough, I've just been talking to length to one of my colleagues outside the stadium just now, and we were talking about where we're at. And it's difficult to judge, isn't it? Because I don't want to be. It's 3 league games into a season, and I don't want to be negative. I don't want to be down on the new manager, because, as he said to me at Plymouth last weekend, he's had 8-9 years to work on his philosophy. These players have had 8 or 9 weeks, and that's not long, in fairness, and the players are doing everything they possibly can, and so there's no criticism of the players at all, so please don't take it as that. But I just want to see a bit more. I think that we've changed manager to try and instill a greater attacking threat into our team, and I'm just not seeing it. Today there was so much. They had 76% 76% of the ball in the first half. Did nothing with it. I think that stat went down to 68% overall in the game. when I think back to actual chances created, they're not creating enough. It's slow. You know, if I think of Louis Coyle in the first half, Louis probably runs. I bet if you looked at the running stats, and we don't get them unfortunately, but I bet Louis probably done 12-14k today. But it's not effective running. Louis and Sean McLaughlin and they're running around in circles in their own half, but they get to the halfway line and have to come back, and it's going back to the goalkeeper. So we're not seeing that quick speed of play that we thought we would see, and it's very laboured, it's very slow and methodical, and quite frankly at times boring. And it makes it really easy for Millwall to defend, because they just get behind the ball. We're not going in behind. We're not breaking the lines. One or two times in the second half when Jarvis came on, but the final ball was poor. But in the first half, everything was in front of Millwall, and it's so easy to play against. And they've played in 3 games. They played Bristol City, they've played Plymouth, and they've now played Millwall. Realistically, 3 games that even at the start of the season, if you've got aspirations of being a challenger for top 6, you'd be looking at picking up more than 3 points in those first 3 games. I thought if they won today, 5 points from the first 3 games, is given the change, the level of change in this summer, would have represented a decent start, particularly when you factor in that they've got Leeds away on Saturday, and then the break, and then Sheffield United here the Friday after the international break. 2 games that at this stage it's hard to see them getting anything from. So yeah, look, it's a clean sheet. I think that's a positive. I've watched every single game through pre-season. 10 games now, I think, 6 in pre-season. Results admittedly mean little, but what they do is give you a flavour. And now 4 competitive games, 3 in the league and 1 in the cup. That's their first clean sheet, so that's a positive. And I thought Ivo Pandor, he's at times he's looked really uncomfortable. I thought he looked solid today. Made a brilliant save in the first half to deny Duncan Watmore. I thought he looked more assured today. Still think defensively look a bit ropey. I think Charlie Hughes is getting close to coming in and starting. But the clean sheet will give them confidence, and they will need that confidence going to Leeds on Saturday. Oscar Zambrano in from the start. His first start today showed some, again, difficult, isn't it? The guy doesn't speak a word of English. It's his first game of Championship football, and with respect to where he's come from in Ecuador, this is completely different. The speed, the intensity, the physicality of Championship football is completely different. So that is, he looked okay, but the game sort of passed him by at times. So it's not a surprise he was taken off. I thought Xavier Simons coming on in the second half made a difference. It gave City a bit more control, which is funny because him going off at Plymouth and it worked the opposite way. Him going off at Plymouth, having had no control, gave City control. So it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? And he came close to scoring. Did Simons as well with a rasping effort. Look, I've talked about Jarvis already. How good he was when he came on, and also him coming on, it eased the pressure on Miller, because everything had to go through Miller in the first half. But he was marked out of the game at times. So Jarvis came in. It gave Millwall something to think about. Bedia looked. First touch was terrible, but of course it was going to be. I think we would expect that. New country, he's only just signed. Straight on into a Championship game, but his overhead kick showed great awareness, great technical ability, and he came close to scoring. But for a really good save from the goalkeeper, he would have done. So that was positive. So look, it's really hard, isn't it? What can we take after 3 games of the season? There's a lot of work to do, I think. Luke desperately lacked any quality on the. Yeah, I would agree. I thought the final ball was non-existent from a lot of players today, and Javo was good when he came on. I like what he did. I just like the fact he ran at people, and it was exciting. For the first time in the game, we got something to get behind, and he ran at people. And defenders hate it when they're having to backtrack, go backwards, and put on the backside. And Jarvis did that. And the final ball was pretty poor. But it showed intent in terms of him getting at his man and trying to go past him and get across in the box. That quality, hopefully, and that sharpness from Jarvis with his final ball will improve if he gets that chance. largely that will depend on what happens in the next few days in the transfer market. So we'll come to that in just a moment. But there were positives, and the fact they've kept a clean sheet. But I still feel that we need to be seeing more. More. I want to see it move quicker. I want to see, rather than just running around in their own half for the sake of it, to then pass back to the goalkeeper. I want to see them, actually going at teams. And the talk about the penalty. I'm not sure about 3. I think 3 is a stretch, but there was certainly 1 in the first half. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Luke, Kamara. Right, let's wrap up the game, because I know everybody wants to talk about transfers, given it is the final week of the window. Look, it's a point on the board. They're unbeaten, clean sheet. There are positives, but I can't get away from the fact there are a lot of questions, and I'm yet to be convinced by what I've seen that this is a style that's going to work in the Championship. So, but it is a point. They're still unbeaten. They haven't won a game, but they're still unbeaten, and they'll need that. They'll need all that defensive confidence, that result, that performance today. They'll need that going to Leeds, because that is going to be a really tough game. Yeah, Peter, the short corner is baffling. There was one in the first half, wasn't there, where they created a bit of momentum in the game, had the corner, knocked around 4 or 5 passes, got nowhere, ended up having to work it out to Louis, and Louis had a good. In the end, Louis could have scored, because he drove at a goal and it deflected wide. But that was. Yeah, a lot of the corners were wasted. But what I would say about that is Millwall are a big side, and pumping it into the penalty area, particularly before Bedia came on, would have been pointless, because they'd have just headed everything away. So, Jake Cooper and Tanganga would have just headed everything away. What I also want to pick out is, because I've been quite critical of City defensively, throughout pre-season and early in this season, I thought McLaughlin and Jones, given the pressure they came under, and I've not seen the stats, there must have been 20, 30, it felt like it, long throws raining into their penalty area, and they got first contact on most of them, which was so important. And when they didn't get first contact, the second ball was cleared and Pandor wasn't exposed. So many times you've seen the long throw come into the box, the opposition win the first header, and then the knockdown, and somebody gets a shot at goal. That didn't happen today, so credit to them that, because they dealt with that aerial threat really, really well. But there would have been no point at them just pumping corner after corner into the penalty area, because Tanganga and Cooper would have just it would have been food and drink for them. So they had to try and be a bit cleverer. Unfortunately, it didn't work. So that's that. Right, transfers. Liam Cooper was here today, obviously of this parish, born here. Left Leeds at the end of the season, or was no contract. That is a deal that we expect to get done. He is a target. As I say, he was here today. Watch it. So there doesn't appear to be any barriers to that deal. Liam Cooper is a player that we could see in the door before the weekend, which is interesting, isn't it? Because what does that mean for Sean McLaughlin? Now, we know McLaughlin's got interest. They've signed Charlie Hughes. Does that suggest that McLaughlin could be on his way? That's one to keep an eye on, particularly throughout the end of the window. So yeah, Liam Cooper is one. Gustavo Puerta, the Bayer Leverkusen midfielder, was here today. He had his medical earlier this week. I think it was Friday. I've lost all track. This week has been one of those weeks, folks, where this week just gone has been one of these weeks. All the days have merged into one. So he's had his medical. He's expected to sign on loan with an obligation to buy, not an option, an obligation. That's the key wording there. That will depend on certain criteria being met. I guess that criteria will depend on his performances, how they go, how many times he plays, Hull City's success as well. It might depend on Hull City getting promoted, for example. Well, that's a long way away at this stage, isn't it? So that's that. I can't. Sorry, was it Steve who mentioned Abu Kamara not being in the Norwich squad? That is telling. Abu, I expect to be leaving Norwich before the window closes. Now, Hull City are interested. That is a fact, but they're not the only club interested. So that is a difficult one, in the sense that Abu, I think, is a really that would be a brilliant signing for me. exactly what they need out on the right-hand side. He's 21. He had a blistering season at Pompey last year with helping Portsmouth get promoted. Exactly the age profile that I like, and he would be a permanent as well. So I like that. I would love it if they could get that over the line, but that isn't going to be straightforward in the sense of there is going to be significant competition for him as the week progresses. But that's one to watch. Jonas Meffert, despite the noises coming out of Germany, I know the Hamburg coach Baumgartner is a manager known for certain things, and I think he's trying to play a game. But it's our understanding that is a deal that could get done. The player wants it. City want it. He's a former Volta player. The manager wants him. So, you've got the player that wants it. The buying club wants it. He's out of contract next summer. So Hamburg, it's all, look, transfers are all about posturing, aren't they? It's all a game of cat and mouse between the selling club, the buying club, the player, the agent, everybody else. So that's one to watch. But that is a target. He is a target. So I did. You may have seen it. You may have seen it. You may not. I went and had some time with Adjun on yesterday at the training ground on Friday. Got invited down there to go and see him. There's a story. There will be a story coming out in the morning, I think it is, where Adjun talks about Jonas Meffert being a target and hoping that gets done. So if you didn't believe that he is a target, the owner has confirmed it. So we'll have to wait and see whether that gets done. We know Oscar Estepinen is going to Mexico. He was here today watching the game, but he will go and sign for a club in Mexico. And because of that, they will look to try and sign a striker. No names at this stage because they're trying to get it over the line before the name falls out in the media and they end up having their pants pulled down and you go somewhere else. That's always the dangers we saw with Kiefer Moore and BTA Brandon Thomas Asante. Striker. So there are two wingers. We know Kamara is one. There is another one that they're looking to do, but it's not. Is it Farid Kalude or Khalide? A name that's been out in the media before. Another player from Germany. That he at this stage that isn't a player that they're looking at. And there's a goalkeeper as well. So we reported. I think it was on Thursday or Friday that they expect to sign 6 players. That could be 4. It could be 7. The next few days are frantic, aren't they? They've got the targets. They've got the striker target, but if they can't get him, they're going to have to find somebody else. And they want Kamara, but if they can't get Kamara, they might have to find somebody. So it's a fluid thing, and they want more players, but equally players may leave. We've seen Mika Seri go. We're going to see Estepinen go. It remains to be seen what happens with Ryan Giles. That interest from Middlesbrough is not going away. So does that translate into something late in the window? Does that then necessitate City signing somebody to get on the left side? Because for me, Matty Jacob hasn't proved himself yet. If Gilo wasn't available, for example, I'd be playing Louis Cord at left back and Drame at right back. That's how I would go. So as I touched on McLaughlin. You'd expect that there'll be Harry Vaughan might go out on loan, Salas Fleming might go out on loan if they can get the striker in, because he's just not going to play. Although he came off the bench today, but will he get enough minutes? He needs to play. He's a bright young kid. He's an exciting talent. Is Salas Fleming, but it's no good in playing 5 minutes here and 10 minutes there because that's absolutely useless for his progress, for his development. It needs to be a bit like Jacob. For me, Jacob. If they got cover, I think Jacob goes out to a Rotherham, somewhere like Rotherham where it's rough and it's going to be rough and tumble under Steve Evans, and he plays 40 games in the in League One for a team that are going to be theoretically challenging for promotion. For me, that's better for Matty Jacob than sitting on the bench at City playing second fiddle to Ryan Giles, irrespective of what happens there. So that's what I'd like to see happen, but that's just purely an opinion, I think. So, but look, there's no doubt about it. This next, what are we at, Saturday night or Saturday tea time? The window closes 11 o'clock on Friday. We've got Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday to come. It's going to be frantic. It's going to be chaos. And Adjun himself loves deadline day. He loves that buzz of being able to bring a player in or two, and particularly from the Premier League. We saw it last season. James Furlong came in from Brighton. Tyler came in from Liverpool, and obviously Jayden. Although we knew that was happening because of the way his agent behaved, it dragged it out. And I think Jayden was one of the last ones to be confirmed on deadline day. So hopefully we don't get agents playing silly buggers on Friday, but you know they are going to be busy. So strap yourselves in, because they are going to be. Funny enough, as I say, I talked about Rotherham. They've just gone 2-0 down at Wickham 3 minutes from time. Yeah. So look, it is going to be hectic. I think those of us that are involved, kind of reporting on it, and those the folks at the club that are going to be working tirelessly to turn everything round, it's going to be. Yeah, we're not going to be getting much sleep or rest over the next 4 or 5 days, but it's good fun. You know, I'll be glad when it's over, and we can get back. We know what City have got, what their squad looks like, and what Walter has to work with. Because big improvement is needed if this team are going to be competitive and looking higher at the table as opposed to looking below them. Because what I've seen so far, they're going to be looking below them. But hopefully, when they get all the players in, they've got the squad together, the manager's got some, you know, he's able to knit it together, and they click. Buzzword being, if they click, you know, there is potential, and hopefully that gets realised in the coming weeks. So that's it from here at the MKM Stadium. I better go home and crack on with stuff for tomorrow and Monday. As always, keep in touch, keep checking the web, keep checking for anything that's any news. We will have the podcast. The 1904 Club will be out on Monday. If you want to get in touch with us at the 1904 Club, do so on Twitter at the 1904 Club. Myself, Burnsy, who was here today, Fletch, and Dave Prutton will all be there, having our Monday mothers meeting. And if you want to get in touch, do so. I think that is it from here at the MKM Stadium. So thanks for watching, folks. Thanks for getting in touch as always, and have a really nice weekend. Take